Welcome back to the channel Auto Cars Land. Today, we're diving into one of the most iconic armored vehicles from World War II, the 2025 M3 Lee tank. While it's not a modern vehicle, the M3 Lee is a crucial part of armored warfare history, and in this video, we'll take a closer look at its design, firepower, and the role it played on the battlefield. The M3 Lee tank was developed by the United States in the early years of World War II, at a time when the country was still ramping up its military production. The war in Europe had shown that armored warfare would be critical, and the US needed a medium tank that could be mass-produced quickly and effectively. Named after Confederate General Robert E. Lee, the M3 was a stopgap solution while a more modern tank, the M4 Sherman, was being developed. The most distinctive feature of the M3 Lee was its dual-gun layout. It featured a 75mm gun mounted in a sponson on the right side of the hull, giving it powerful anti-armor capabilities. However, this side-mounted gun had limited traverse and elevation, which made aiming more difficult, especially when firing on the move or on uneven terrain. To compensate, a smaller 37mm gun was installed in a rotating turret on top of the tank, along with a machine gun cupola. This combination gave the M3 an unusual silhouette and a somewhat top-heavy look, but it also meant the tank could engage both armor and infantry effectively. In terms of armor, the M3 Lee had relatively thick plating for its time, with up to 51mm of frontal armor. This offered good protection against early war German and Italian anti-tank weapons, but as the war progressed and enemy firepower increased, the M3's armor quickly became outdated. The tank was powered by a Wright R975 radial gasoline engine, which produced around 400 horsepower. With this engine, the M3 could reach speeds of about 26 miles per hour on roads, and had a range of approximately 120 miles, depending on terrain and conditions. One of the strengths of the M3 Lee was its adaptability. Several variants were produced, including the M3 Grant, a version supplied to British forces that featured a different turret design. The British made extensive use of the M3 in North Africa, where its long-range 75mm gun proved effective against German tanks like the Panzer III and early versions of the Panzer IV. The tank's high profile, while a disadvantage in some cases, allowed for a spacious interior that could house a crew of up to 7 men, including a driver, gunner, commander, and loader, among others. However, the M3 Lee's flaws were just as notable. Its height made it an easy target, and the sponson-mounted main gun limited its ability to fight from hull-down positions or traverse quickly during fast-paced engagements. Additionally, the interior layout was cramped and made coordination among the crew challenging. The tank's performance in Europe was limited due to these drawbacks, but in the early years of the war and especially in desert warfare, it filled a critical role. In the Pacific theater, the M3 Lee also saw use, particularly in campaigns like the Battle of Tarawa and in the Philippines. Against Japanese armor and fortifications, the M3's firepower was more than adequate. While not ideal in jungle terrain due to its size and weight, the M3's versatility kept it relevant until better-suited tanks like the Sherman were available in sufficient numbers. Production of the M3 Lee began in 1941 and ended in 1942, with over 6,000 units built. Its relatively short production run speaks to how quickly tank design evolved during the war. Despite its limited service time, the M3 played a key transitional role in the development of American armored doctrine and tank design. It provided crews with valuable combat experience and helped pave the way for the Sherman, which would go on to become one of the most famous tanks of the war. Today, the M3 Lee is remembered as an imperfect but important tank. It wasn't the best in any one category, but it was available when it was needed most, and that counts for a lot in wartime. Several surviving M3 tanks are preserved in museums around the world, including in the US, UK, and Russia. These tanks serve as a reminder of how far armored warfare has come, and of the ingenuity and resourcefulness of the engineers who built them under the pressure of global conflict. While the M3 Lee may not match the sleek lines or advanced technology of today's tanks, its place in history is well earned. From the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of the Pacific, it carried the fight where it mattered. Whether you're a military history enthusiast or just curious about iconic vehicles, the M3 Lee offers a fascinating look into a critical moment in 20th century warfare. That's all for today's deep dive into the legendary M3 Lee tank. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Autocars Land for more detailed looks at historic and modern military vehicles. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.